Okay, this game's Topalov versus Aronian, played in 2006. Topalov playing white, plays d4. Aronian knight f6. Now we have c4. And now Aronian chooses the Nimzo Indian defense with e6. Now instead of knight c3, knight f3, which is becoming popular, was played, which forces black to play something like the Queen's Indian usually. That's the preferred choice against knight f3. So b6, g3. Now bishop a6 is a very popular move here to provoke a slight weakness with b3. And now black plays bishop b4 check, and after bishop d2 moves the bishop back to e7. So the point of this bishop check was to sort of disrupt white's natural development and leave the bishop on an awkward square here, where the queen's not now protecting d4, and if the bishop wanted to sort of be on this diagonal, it'll have to go bishop c3, but then it'll be blocking the knight from the natural square. So it's a bit of a disruptive check, this bishop b4 to e7. Bishop g2, c6. So black now tries to set up a sort of fortress pawn structure, also pressurizing this diagonal in the process, especially immediately c4. So bishop c3, d5. Now white plays knight e5 to protect the c pawn. Knight d7, and now takes. Now knight d2, protecting the c pawn again. Knight f6. Now e4, b5. So black's really trying to put pressure on this diagonal. So this is quite a sort of annoying move, because if takes, you know, black is stretching the pieces, the scope of the pieces, and rook c8 is then going to be a bit useful, and so black's getting some queenside counterplay here, or trying to. So Topalov plays this sequence. Now c5, bishop c8. So black's now got some options here for b4 to gain some space, but also this bishop's now coming out perhaps more usefully than on a6, perhaps g4 or f5. So knight f3 was played. And now we have an interesting situation where, out of the blue, Topalov, he plays a stunning move now, which may not be completely sound. There's been a game since where white actually lost with this, but it was new at the time of the game. This exchange sacrifice now, rook takes e4. So what's the main point of this exchange sacrifice? Well, first of all, after DE, you'll see the D pawn's liberated now, so we've got more potential for correcting a passed pawn. But also this E pawn is quite vulnerable, and after knight e4, white's immediately attacking it, and also this pawn. So he's trying to get at least a pawn for the exchange now. So black cements both pawns though, and Topalov now plays queen e1. So that's not only attacking this pawn, but also stopping any b4s now. And maybe the bishop can also be useful later with bishop a5, but before that, white would have to protect d4. So this queen e1's dual purpose, putting pressure on this diagonal and this pawn. So black actually defends this pawn. Now g4. Now this is forcefully winning a pawn for the exchange, because if the bishop moves back now, white could take, or moves back this way, white would take that pawn. So although white's an exchange down, it's about to get another pawn. But he doesn't play the natural knight g6. He just leaves being the exchange down, because here there's further pressure now on e4. And if takes bishop f3, this pawn's going to drop, and that would leave two connected passed pawns here. Let's have a quick look at knight takes g6. If that was an obvious alternative, would that have been as good? Knight takes g6, say fg, queen e4. It's interesting. Maybe white's doing okay, but perhaps Topalov's continuation is simply stronger, because it's putting even more pressure on. So b4 was played here, fe. So white's now got a pawn for the exchange. Now, yet another very interesting move was played by Topalov. Knight takes c6. unleashing the power of this bishop on the diagonal. So after queen takes c6, e5, queen a6, e takes. You'll see now that black, first of all, could have done an immediate queen f6, but notice white's pawns now. There's two connected passed pawns here, and these bishops are potentially quite lethal. You know, attacking all these central squares, and this bishop is particularly dangerous. So I think there's a theme here developing that, you know, can Topalov stretch these passed pawns and use the two bishops? So he plays queen f1, not worrying about queen exchanges because he's got enough compensation now for the exchange. Black really doesn't, you know, want to take this pawn particularly because it's the wretched pawns here and this isolated pawn. And white is not that interested in FG. He's more interested in getting these pawns to be more dangerous, these two connected passed pawns. So c7, and immediately, so it's getting to be uncomfortable already. And now Topalov brilliantly sacrifices yet another exchange. So he's looking at these passed pawns and seeing his two bishops as well, and trying to maximise these factors in the position. And this does, because now this pawn is now going to join the other one. So even though he's two exchanges down, white's being passively tied down to the defence of these pawns. After d6, there's now ominous threats of like d7 and d8, or d7 and c8. So it's looking a bit critical now for black, even though black's two whole exchanges up. So queen g3, also threatening g7 as if black hasn't got enough to worry about. So something has to be done about this threat of queen takes g7 mate. Queen g5, bravely just wanting the exchange of queens because these pawns are now worth their weight in gold. And now rook d1, a sensible move, but it's not enough. Bishop c6 is now not only attacking the rook but threatening d7 as a harmless check. And here, you know, black's faced with c8 and there's no defence because also this bishop's stopping. If also this rook, it couldn't go there anyway because of the bishop here. So this is just totally hopeless, this situation. And black resigned here. So that was quite a stunning demonstration of using the exchange sacrifices to maximise the power of the passed pawns and the bishops, which were absolutely lethal in this ending. An excellent game by Topalov.